Welcome to Monday Morning Dharma on September 15th. Let's begin with some meditation. Please settle into a comfortable meditation posture. Please feel free to take as your role model for a comfortable meditation posture. Please consider taking as your role model the mountain, balanced, grounded, stable, moving, and yet not moving, with ancient wisdom awareness. Moment by moment, phenomena are undergoing change. It's not that things change or that things will change. It's that things are in the process of changing, moment by moment by moment. The person completing this sentence is not the same as the person who began the sentence. Meditation on impermanence is an extremely powerful method for overcoming, subduing, and eradicating the minds of anger and desirous attachment. That's because if you recognize that the object of your attachment is in the process of changing, dissolving, and disappearing, that means that the basis for the mind of attachment or anger is also necessarily changing, dissolving, and disappearing. Please know this truth about wisdom realizing impermanence. If you perfect your experience of wisdom realizing impermanence, you will never suffer again in this lifetime. A monk once made the following statement. He said, "In my 20 years of wearing the robes of an ordained monk, I have learned this one fact. All that arises ceases. This I know." So for the next few moments, for the remainder of our meditation, I'd like you to please just rest in the wisdom that realizes the impermanence of all products. If you'd like, please feel free to take as your mantra to recite silently. Please feel free to take as your mantra the insight from the monk. All that arises ceases. All that arises ceases. And become one with this truth. If you are silently reciting the mantra, please feel free to conjoin your mantra recitation with meditation on the inner body. Allow the syllables of your mantra to vibrate through your body, through your physical body and your subtle body. All that arises ceases. All that arises ceases, ceases being what it was in the previous moment. All products always changing, ever evolving, like dream objects. Because of the dreamlike nature of phenomena, it's easier for us to overcome our delusions of desirous attachment and anger by recognizing this impermanence, by knowing this impermanence, by knowing it as well as we know anything in our lives. Please redirect your awareness Become aware again of this collection of parts we've agreed to label physical body, and allow your breathing to become less shallow. Taking deeper and deeper breaths, become aware again of the garments of clothing resting on the surface of physical body. Become aware again of your surroundings inside the room you're occupying. Deeper and deeper breaths, becoming aware again of the world that exists outside of the room that you're occupying. We dedicate all of the merit, all of the positive energy from this morning's meditation and Dharma talk to world peace. May all beings without exception be completely free from all forms of emotional and physical suffering. May all beings without exception soon come to enjoy inner and outer peace, inner and outer freedom. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Welcome back. Welcome back. Continuing with In Love with the World, jumping forward to the chapter titled A Day at the Ghats. A Day at the Ghats. And just to remind us, refresh our memory of where we are, Yongey Mingyur still in Varanasi. He is what little money he had when he arrived at Varanasi is dwindling away. He's not going to have any money um, in very short order. And isn't that interesting that that's like his plan? His plan is to end up with no money. It's different than the financial plan that most of the rest of us have, right? You know, my plan is to have as much as I can, whereas this aspiring sadhu named Yongey Mingyur, his plan is to exhaust all funds and have an alms bowl and the clothes on his back, and that's it. So, Yongey Mingyur decides to take a little bit of a field trip to leave the train station, the Varanasi train station, and go to the Ghats of Varanasi. And if you're not sure what a Ghat is, spelled Ghat, a Ghat is our steps that lead down to the river Ganges, where cremations take place, or pilgrims go to do ablutions to purify themselves. You know, another interesting interesting observation about Yongey Mingyur. You know, I think most tourists, you know, visitors to places in India, you know, like let's go to the Taj Mahal, right? Or let's go to some authentic, you know, some authentic Indian food place. Yeah. Now, Yongey Mingyur says, let's go down to the cremation site and see what's happening down there. But the part I want to talk about with the time we have left is has to do with the ablution aspect. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with this practice whereby spiritual practitioners go to the river Ganges and bathe in the river because of the river's healing powers, yeah, healing properties, because it is a sacred and revered watershed flowing from the Himalayas, of course. They go and they bathe in the river Ganges as a means of not only cleansing their physical body, but of purifying all negativities, right? Negativities of both body and mind. What do you guys think of that? What do you think about that? Do you think that's a practice that works? Bathing in the river Ganges to purify both body and mind? You Zoomers, if you have any thoughts on this, on whether this is a real legitimate practice that works or not, please unmute yourself and share your thoughts with us.
Jeff, I think that bathing in rivers is generally a great idea,
Yeah.
and that I think the water of most rivers I would think would be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Nothing we can say that there's nothing we can say or prove that it won't work. I don't think we can say that. Grace, did you have something?
I was going to say, I just look at it as the symbolism,
Hmm.
bathing, and whatever is important and you believe is how it works. If you believe that this river is going to provide you with that, it's going to work.
I
And
that's Go
I've
ahead,
heard from
please.
people that travel to India that that river is not the cleanest in the world.
Yeah, yeah. Cremation taking place just a little bit upriver,
Right.
right? No
So
need to get.
there is so much to be said for belief and faith.
I th
And
I
I'll
think
go off there.
I think both of your comments are spot on. And yes, it is the bathing in the river Ganges or any river can be a powerful purification practice if we empower that practice with our mind, right? We're the ones who empower it to work, right? If we have a very ordinary worldly, oh, it's a disgusting river that actually causes more contamination than it does purification, then our experience is going to be colored by that view, by that disempowering view. So this is one of my favorite topics, you guys, purification, and it's one of the most important topics. My teacher has said many times, if we apply ourselves to accumulating merit, receiving blessings, and purifying negativity, meaning purifying negative karma, all spiritual insights will come naturally and quickly. I think that with regard to any healing modality, we empower that modality with our mind. Now, us Westerners might think, oh, with sort of allopathic medicine, they perform peer-reviewed, double-blind, clinical trials to prove that these practices really work. It's not a function of mind. It's a function of the science. It's the efficacy and the science that make it work. Well, if you say so, I mean, there's this other thing called the placebo effect. Yeah. And I'm more compelled by the placebo effect than I am the scientific results of the double-blind, peer-reviewed, blah, blah, blah. Um, what about acupuncture? Acupuncture less, at least in terms of Western terms, less kind of scientific proof that that practice works. It can work if it will help if our mind believes that it works or can work. Reiki, those of you who are familiar with Reiki, energy healing, maybe even a little less scientific, distance Reiki healing. I've got a friend who every time I'm not feeling well says, can I do distance Reiki? She lives in Santa Fe. You know, who says? Who says? And the one thing I will say is that the lineage of a particular healing practice or purification practice matters, right? Somebody could sit in front of us and say, here's this great purification practice. Just go on a binge watching romantic comedy videos, and purify. That will purify your negativities or your negative karma. Maybe, but I would want I would want the assurance of, a practice that has been performed and perfected by somebody, I would like to see results before I embraced a rom-com binge means of purification. Uh, and that leads us to the power of mantra, to the power of mantra. I want to share with you, with just the little time that we have left, a story that I've told you before about my closest Sangha brother who lives in California, Andre Jordan. He and I entered the Buddhist path at about the same time. And whereas I tried to do all of the practices at once in Tibetan schools of Dharma practice, they have a lot of different pujas that one can do, like ritual practices and lots of different meditations and lots of different things like this. And I took on a bunch of different ones and did them not simultaneously, but just mixed them into my daily practice, all these different practices. Andre did one practice. He did one practice for years. It was purification practice through mantra recitation. He took the mantra of a Buddha of purification that's named Vajrasattva, Vajrasattva. And all he did for years was recite the mantra of Vajrasattva day after day, hour after hour, over and over. And I hope you guys get to meet him someday, because you'll see the payoff from that purification practice. He has become a healer, like just like hands-on healing. He'll see somebody who is sitting on a bench who's suffering, obviously in pain. He'll go up and ask him. He says, I have something that I think might be able to help, and heals them of that which ails them. Yeah. Does it with complete strangers, does it with animals. It's amazing. And it's a product, in my opinion, of his purification. So his purification practice and the energy that he applied to purifying. So the River Ganges isn't very accessible to us, to most of us right now, but mantra recitation is. Whether it's all that arises ceases, whether it's the mantra of Medicine Buddha, I just can't praise highly enough the benefits of mantra yoga, of becoming the mantra, of becoming all that arises ceases, of becoming compassion through the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum. Short, and super powerful. There's even a shorter mantra. You can write it down if you want, if you don't have a mantra to recite. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum, the mantra of all of the enlightened beings. Om Ah Hum, purification of body, speech, and mind. 3 syllables, body, speech, and mind. Okay. More about Yange Mingyur's adventure on Friday. Speaking of Friday, please know that we'll have the third class in our series on Buddhist activism, 5:30 to 6:15 on Friday, and new time for Medicine Buddha meditation on Saturday mornings. It's now 8:30 to 9:15. Cole, thank you for joining us. Everybody, thank you for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're most welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Most
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.